What's up, everybody? Oh, I messed that up. What's up, everybody? This is Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. I'm all flabbergasted and discombobulated because I goofed up the timing of the stream. It was the old AM PM conundrum. When I initially set up the stream, I set it for 8 a.m. instead of 8 p.m., which is 9 p.m. Eastern, which is 8 p.m. my time. So my apologies if things were a little confusing on YouTube and Facebook. I finally got it sorted out, but there's on the StreamYard. You can't change the start time on the Facebook stream 30 minutes before. There's like a whole timing thing on Facebook. I was able to fix it on YouTube, but Facebook was a little goofed up. And the last 2 weeks, I also noticed with Facebook, just this little housekeeping for Super Radio live streams. I noticed that we had not been streaming to Facebook like I thought we had. So it seems like it was just an error within StreamYard on my part, user error. I had to reconnect the Facebook page. So hopefully if you normally watch it on Facebook, you should be able to see it on Facebook now. Please let me know if you don't see it. But I think all of those live stream scheduling things hopefully got worked out. So this week we are going to be talking about All-Star Superman number 2. And we'll get to that once Morgan hops on the stream. So this is the second episode in the series. That's how the comic refers to itself as in episodes. And so this one is quite the little story here. A lot more time with Lois in this issue. So I'll be curious to see what Morgan's thoughts are about the portrayal of Lois. This was the issue that I looked at and I was like, oh yeah, I remember why I don't love this story very much. I don't love this comic book as much as maybe some other people. I started to remember why I wasn't crazy about this art in this one, but that's okay because it's kind of an interesting story and a good wrinkle in the Superman Clark Kent Lois Lane triangle and the relationship between Superman and Lois. So I think that is worth discussing. If anybody has any questions for me, I will get to those whenever hopefully Morgan hasn't forgotten about us. She's maybe just running late. Brian says, I got the live stream alert 12 hours ago. I've been looking forward to this all day. Well, I hope the timing that was my error for scheduling the stream was not any problem for you. Hopefully you didn't have any issues. Stanley wants to know if we have any news this week. We do. It's nothing about the Supergirl movie or the Superman movie. We have news on a Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow thing that people may want to buy. I think I'll be interested in buying it for sure. I see Morgan's trying to connect, so we'll give her a little more time. So we'll get to talking about the okay. Morgan says she needs to restart, so we will hang out. I'll hang out with the chat if anybody has any questions. Yeah, so we'll kind of vamp until she gets in. But it looks like there's some movement in terms of merchandising or merch or products for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which is pretty exciting. I can add another Supergirl to my shelf, try to get as many of the different iterations of the Supergirl figures as I can. It does look like Morgan is trying to connect. I do see you down there, Morgan. Let's say, yeah, it won't let you turn on your camera. It may be a stream issue, a StreamYard issue, maybe.
Hello.
Well, I can hear you. So that's good.
Yes. I don't know what's going on. It has been kind of weird today, but I thought it was just me. I didn't see the camera. I thought it was like, oh, I don't know, because it's got that like facial recognition thing that like signs you into your computer.
Okay.
And it just wasn't working today. And I was like, oh man, do I remember my my passcode? And so I guess it was a issue with the camera. So if you don't mind like waiting
no, I can totally vamp. I think
if you don't mind vamping, I might want to restart.
Don't worry about it. There's some weird StreamYard. There's like new features that have happened, so I don't know if that's bugging.
I wonder if the new features got me.
Yeah, I don't know how crazy I am about the new features, but we can talk about that later.
It's like we've got this new feature where like we don't turn your camera on. It's how to really connect with your audience.
Give it a go. If you can't, we'll just do audio only, and that'll be fine too.
Okay, I'm gonna restart, and I'll be back shortly.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So to hop back into the chat, these are no ID. Says, asks, will your podcast be attending Superman Celebration this year? It would be my second year and would love to meet you guys in person. Well, no ID. I go every year. The last year that I went, which is last year, I only went it for the day and I was only in Metropolis for like 6 hours just because I'm kind of a cheapskate. And I used to go and stay in a hotel and spend the night and do all of that. I don't know if I will do that this year. So I don't know what my plans are, depending on who the guests are. Because I did feel pretty rushed last year. I drove all the way up to Metropolis, which is about 6-ish hours for me. And then I spent, I did kind of like a half and half. I go to Nashville and then kind of spend the night and then go to Metropolis from there. So that's another couple of hours from Nashville. So I don't know. I'm definitely going to try to go. I don't know how long I will be there because I definitely saved a little money by only going for 6 hours. But we'll see, depending on who the guests are this year, which I don't think they've announced yet. I think they're taking suggestions. I saw something on Facebook where they were like, "Who do you want to see at Superman Celebration this year?" And I was like, "Melissa Benoist!" Exclamation point. So I don't know if that will happen, but I think they do take feedback into consideration. So we'll see who shows up. They usually have some pretty good guests. So I usually try to go and interview some folks. If you've never watched or listened to any of our Superman Celebration episodes, we have some dating back to 2019, 2020. They didn't have the celebration. So there was a gap where there was no Superman Celebration episode. But yeah, we've covered it pretty well. I always go into the Super Museum every year to see what the new stuff is. Sometimes they put some new things on display. So I try to find things I haven't seen before and investigate them and talk about them. And I actually learn a lot about historical items in different time periods based on the Superman object that I didn't understand. I think last year was the time that I found the 70s disco Superman music 8-track, maybe. That was amazing. That music was amazing. I mean, you should look at it. It was great. It was great. So sometimes I find things in the Museum that really teach me a lot about how things used to be before my time. So I enjoy going to the Super Museum. I usually try to go into Sissy's, the sweet shop, and get some Superman ice cream. I try to interview some folks, some other people who come to Superman Celebration, whether it be a cosplayer or a fan or something like that. I try to get the hot takes of the people in Metropolis about what's going on in the world of Superman. I did participate maybe my first year where I participated in the Superman trivia. I thought I would do better than I did. I didn't. I mean, I did okay, but they were really, those trivia questions, it was like a Superman Jeopardy. And the guy who won, I think, like won the year before. So he's very smart. But the questions were so very detailed. And I thought I would do better on the Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman questions. And I didn't do as well as I thought I would. So in anticipation for Superman Celebration, and also in anticipation of Dragon Con this year, which I am assuming there will be a panel on the Battle of Lois Lanes. We've, in the last 2 years, we've done the Battle of the Supermen and the Battle of Lex Luthor's. So my guess, my estimation is that this group of panelists that I've been on with at Dragon Con for the last couple of years might talk about Lois Lane this year. So I've been rewatching Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman. So if there are Lois and Clark episodes at trivia at Superman Celebration, I hope I will do better this time around. So we'll see. Okay, it looks like, Morgan, you're with us.
I'm back.
Okay, so did it just take a restart?
Yeah, it just restarted. It had to update. I think it got mad at me because I was putting off the update, and I was like, "Do you want your camera then?"
It was like holding your camera hostage.
Camera gets it.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you're good to go. Let's see. Stanley also asked, just before we get started, any new comics you're looking forward to this year? Well, I think we've already talked about them in a previous news segment. There's going to be a new Supergirl comic and a new Crypto comic, both coming this summer.
Psyched about both.
Psyched about both. We will cover both. So that will be something to look forward to once we get through All-Star Superman, which is only 12 issues / episodes. And we are now on number 2. So we'll be talking about that. I'm very curious, Morgan, about your thoughts. And so we'll get into those. So let's officially get started. We have a little bit of news, but mostly we'll be talking about the comics. So let's get started.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired to review All-Star Superman #2, which was written by Grant Morrison with pencils by Frank Quitely. I always want to say quietly, but maybe it's just Quitely. I think it's Quitely. He's like Quitely. Frank Quitely, digitally inked and colored by Jamie Grant and lettered by Phil Balsman and Travis Lanham. And so we are doing this partially because the new Superman movie is going to be in I guess what I should say is the new Superman movie was inspired by All-Star Superman. So there could be All-Star Superman things in it. And mostly the reason we're doing it is so Morgan can go into the movie and be like, they didn't do it like the comic book. So
exactly,
she can feel an air of superiority.
So I can like turn to somebody that is a stranger to me and go, the comic did it different.
That's mostly why we're doing this. And also, I guess the third reason is there's a little Nasty Luthor in there. Which I'm excited about. Spoiler alert, not in this one. Not in this issue. But we'll do anything for a Nasty Luthor appearance, which is very rare. So that is why we are covering it here. But before we get into talking about All-Star Superman #2, we need to get to
the news.
According to denofgeek.com, Toy Fair 2025, the largest and most iconic toy trade show in the Western Hemisphere, held its 119th event in New York City, where tens of thousands of global play professionals walked the show floor. I thought that was not right, by the way. Like, I was like, I feel like they missed a word. And then I realized that, like, people in the toy industry are called play professionals. That's pretty cool.
Wouldn't you like to have like a business card that said, I don't think I would want a business card that said play professional.
There'd be a lot of follow-up questions I wouldn't like, actually.
Now that I think about it, I don't think I would want the title play professional.
I feel like I'd be giving people the wrong idea. But I mean, hats off to you, my play professionals.
Do you think Toyman of DC Comics would call himself?
I was just thinking that. I was like, this is the convention that like Toyman dreams about. This is like what he's like trying to get like ready all year. He's like, we're play professionals. We have to be there.
Okay, continue on with
sorry.
Yes.
Where tens of thousands of global play professionals walk the show floor of the Javits Center to preview thousands of the hottest new and unique toys, games, and youth entertainment products making their debut. There, it was revealed that a page puncher Supergirl figure straight from the Infinite Frontier run of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King would be released that has every feature from her curls to her facial expression.
I mean, the curls are pretty impressive, I have to say.
Listen, the curls are pretty good.
They look like the curls in the Bilquis Evely art. So now
this might be
nailed it.
This might be inside baseball for play professionals, but I have never heard of a page puncher figure before. Is this a thing that you know about?
I never had either. I think this is related to McFarlane Toys. I kind of just pulled the Supergirl aspect of it out of the article, but I want to say this was McFarlane Toys. It said one of the biggest announcements comes from the industry leader and innovator global toy company McFarlane Toys, founded over 30 years ago by Todd McFarlane, the Grammy and Emmy-winning producer / director and the creator of Spawn, blessed us with loads of reveals. So I don't know why it's a page puncher. I don't know if it comes with a comic book or something like that. Let me see. Actually, I'm going to pull.
I think it does. I'm on the... I don't trust the AI search results, so I always try to go to the actual page. The AI search results have told me some wild things, wildly untrue.
Yeah.
The McFarlane website says page punchers. McFarlane Toys Page Punchers brings to market the ultimate action pack of an iconic comic book with a 3-inch or 7-inch action figure. Packaged with the single issue comic, the fully articulated figures are expertly detailed and faithfully channel the character designs from the 2D illustration into 3D figural form.
Yeah, so that's what I was finding as well. So if you get the Page Puncher Supergirl figure, you will also probably get, my guess is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow #1, because both the cover of that one and the action figure have the sword in her iconic pose. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think I will buy the Page Puncher Supergirl from Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
This is very cool. I don't usually get that many. I'm not like a merch girly
Right.
when it comes to like action figures, but that one's tempting. I gotta be honest, that one's really tough. I was like, my bookshelf, I could it would be a perfect compliment.
The only problem I foresee for myself is that sword is gonna get lost. That sword is gonna fall out of her little hand, and it's gonna be gone forever.
The first time Bunsen decides to go visit that Page Puncher toy is the last time we'll see her sword.
I have a Green Arrow from the Arrowverse action figure that has the little bow and arrow, and it's so hard to keep up with. And I have a Deathstroke figure that someone got me, and it has like the swords and stuff. And it's that, and I also have an Aquaman that has a trident, and it's just so
you've experienced this multiple times.
It's so hard to keep up with like the little attachments that go in the hands, because they're not real. They don't hold them well. Can you imagine? The figures don't have a good grip.
Solder them in there. I have like a little Hawkeye Funko Pop, and that little arrow is not coming out of his hand at all.
Yeah, so maybe the Page Puncher just stays in the the case.
I see Mind the Gap in the chat says McFarlane is losing the DC license next year, so I think you may have to get one, because I don't think there will be more.
Wow.
So, actually, this is motivating for me personally, because I might have been like, I don't know, do I want to get it? Do I not want to get it? But if I think it's a limited edition, well, now it's worth it.
That's crazy, because McFarlane Toys, I have quite a bit of their DC stuff, and they do some pretty good work. So
I'm surprised at that. I remember every year at like San Diego Comic-Con, they would always have like such a huge booth and displays and stuff like that. So I'm surprised that they're losing one of like a major license deal like that.
Well, that is disappointing. McFarlane should be making DC Comics.
Not right before our Supergirl movie.
Oh my gosh. Well, this may be what we get. So we'll see if anybody else does a better job than the luscious curls in Supergirl's hair, because they do look pretty good. I gotta say, I'm a little impressed. Okay, so that's really all the news we have. A new Supergirl figure is on the horizon. Don't know when the Page Puncher is coming out, but we'll try to keep everybody updated once we hear more. So Morgan, let's get into our review of All-Star Superman #2. The description for this one, which is called Superman's Forbidden Room. It's episode 2, Superman's Forbidden Room. The description reads, quote, after the startling events of the first issue, Superman retreats with Lois Lane to his Arctic sanctuary. I don't know why Arctic is capitalized, but okay. Find out what mystery haunts Superman's girlfriend as she spends her birthday in the strangest place on Earth, the Fortress of Solitude, unquote. So, Morgan, what did you think about getting to visit the Fortress of Solitude with Lois Lane, who obviously I think had been there before? She seemed pretty at home there.
She seemed like she knew about the fortress. It seemed like he had done some light redecorating since the last time that she had been there. And she's like, wow, what's happening in here? Like, it looks like an art exhibit. I think she like makes fun of his exhibit full of things, and he's like, this is my merch. He's like, the sword does come pre-soldered into this, so I'm keeping an eye on it. I like his explanation that like these are all things that are dangerous, so he's put them all in one place where only he has access to them. And you can see in this like sort of 2-page spread where you see a bunch of the stuff that he's got in there. There's like a giant robot. There is like a chessboard for some
Yeah,
reason
of
with the heroes.
of Superman family characters like Perry and Jimmy, and even Batman's in there, and Lois is in there, versus like some of the bad guys. So it's like Bizarro and Lex Luthor. So it's like like a live chess set of like live size people.
I have to be honest. This was the one that I felt as Lois Lane, I would have the most questions about.
About the life size chess set.
She's like, "Oh, that's a baby sun eater." I was like, "Girl, he's got a life-size version of you over there that he plays chess with. You're gonna want to really like zero in on that. 'Cause that is weird." There's also a giant bad penny from the Joker. I
Yeah.
don't know what danger this could possibly hold. I think he maybe likes it as decor, honestly.
Yeah, I think this is a reference to Batman famously has a giant penny in the Batcave. So maybe this was a gift from the Batman.
That feels like something that Batman would give as a gift, and you'd be like, "Oh, it's so big," and Batman's like, "Yeah, I know. It fills up a whole room in my mansion. It fits in your apartment, right?" You're like, "Batman, not really. It doesn't really go with my decor." He's like, "It goes with any decor." And also, when I
Batman's
look
trying to
at
get
it,
rid of it.
he's like, "When I look at it, it makes me so sad, and I figured I want that for you too." And you're like, "Batman." Therapy. There's also, it looks like the Bottle City of Candor
Yeah.
is on a platform that I'm just gonna go ahead and say looks a little precarious. The platform's not that big, and the Bottle City is just sort of in the middle of it, but there's like
It's gonna fall
pretty
right
close
off.
to the edge.
Yeah.
Like one of those robots accidentally bumps into that thing, and he's just killed that city. The whole
That
city.
whole civilization.
I really want to see it. Like, I don't know, like on a bigger platform. There's no space constraints in here, and yet he's put it on the smallest platform it could possibly go on.
Maybe it's like a super glass of some kind. It's like really secure. Like, it's not gonna break if you.
It might not break, but they're gonna have like the worst earthquake of their civilization.
That's true. They are
Thousands
really
of dollars of property damage. A tsunami happens inside the Bottle City.
That's true. That could cause some
Lois
havoc.
is like, "Whoops."
I do like that he has a space shuttle in his fortress. That's pretty cool from the, I guess, NASA space missions. That's pretty awesome. I enjoy that. He also I don't have an overlay of it, but he and Lois do dinner in the Titanic, I think, like
Yeah.
the Titanic.
It looks like there is a ship behind the airplane, and I do
Oh, yes.
wonder if that's supposed to be the Titanic.
I
And also,
hadn't noticed that behind the space shuttle. You're
I
correct.
only noticed it because we were looking at that panel for so long. But it is funny because he's like, here's a bunch of knickknacks and doodads, and also here's a bunch of dangerous stuff. Also, here's a Titanic. No reason, just flexing. I went to a museum in Pennsylvania like a month ago that was just a bunch of random stuff. And when I say just a bunch of random stuff, I mean like random stuff, like signs from Quiznos and and an animatronic Charles Entertainment Cheese band that did in fact spring to life and play a song. And then you would like, go
Terrifying.
past, like a wall of just like phones from various ages, like old timey phones, and then like the phones from the 90s. There was no rhyme or reason in this. It was just like, and it was apparently it's kept up by an eccentric collector who
Amazing.
just likes to buy random stuff, and he just puts it in this warehouse, and you can take a tram through it. Anyway, it was amazing. I turned to Mike and I said, if I ever won the Mega Millions, I wouldn't tell anyone, but there would be signs. And anyway, this is the vibe I'm getting from Clark's Forbidden Room. All of that to say, I feel like Clark is also like on the DL, a little bit of a hoarder, and this is a thing we've just found out about him.
Also, the Fortress of Solitude must be ginormous.
It's got to be
If it's got the entire Titanic inside of it. I went to, you're talking about museums. When we were in Berlin, my family was in Berlin. We went to the Pergamon Museum. That place is ginormous because that's where they have the Ishtar Gate, which is this huge gate that dates back to King Nebuchadnezzar II. And they
That's
like
so cool.
They found all the pieces of the gate and they like put them back together like a puzzle. And it's this ginormous gate inside this building. And then they also have like these big like Roman gates in there. So the place is huge. Like it's physically a huge museum. And so that's sort of what this makes me think of, that the Titanic was a huge ship. It was
Huge
like
ship.
It was.
They called it the ship of dreams, and it was.
For one trip only.
Just that one.
Just that one. Not even like the full trip. Just like part
Most
of the way
of it.
So for that to be inside the Fortress of Solitude, it's a ginormous place. So we get a pretty good look at everything that's in the Fortress of Solitude. Superman does mention some other places within the Fortress of Solitude. He talks about a Phantom Zone map room, which I really wanted to go in, but he says, Superman says that it's actually pretty dull unless you can see radio negative anti-waves. And I'm like, whatever. It still sounds pretty cool. Maybe you get more out of it, but a Phantom Zone's map room, I want to know about that.
Why don't you let us decide? Because I want to see where all the offices in the Phantom Zone are in relation to each other, and what what do they hold? Like, is this HR? Is there like another satellite office where they just have files? We learned in Supergirl, the TV show, that there are quite a few what look like office buildings.
Yeah,
in the Phantom Zone.
Supergirl season 6 did have a Phantom Zone that had like break rooms inside of it and like places to put art in cubicles. It looked like, or little cubby holes. So that's one interpretation of the Phantom Zone.
I do have to say, like, when you're thinking about the Phantom Zone, this place that you put dangerous criminals, it's like jail, it's like purgatory. I do feel like an office with cubicles does kind of fit that bill.
Yeah, because time never changes there. So you're at work all the time.
Always. It's like it's permanent severance.
There's no off hours. You're taking your work home with you every day.
That's true.
You're not leaving the office.
You're checking in, but you're never checking out. It's the Hotel California.
So it has a Phantom Zone map room. It has what Superman calls a genetic library, where he explains that he used Brainiac's shrinking ray to store living samples of every threatened species within 100 light years in a single drawer. So he keeps them all in this little bitty drawer. We talked about his Titanic that's in there. He also mentions that he has a Fortress of Solitude armory where he keeps some of the world's deadliest weapons of total destruction. He had to confiscate those from the bad guys and keep them so nobody else would get them. So he has an armory of those. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was this time telescope, Morgan. Superman tells us that he's able to use this time telescope to contact his successors and enlist their aid to help him prevent threats before they even occur. And when Superman demonstrates this to Lois, he is able to make contact with Cal Kent, the Superman of the year 85,230 AD. Cal reports that he fought Solaris, the tyrant sun. So, Morgan, I guess I have two questions. What do you think about this time telescope? I have three questions, actually.
Sure.
So keep it. This is very rare for a 3-part question.
I like it.
Number one, the time telescope. What are your thoughts on it? Number two, Lois encounters the time telescope. She wants to know about her future with Superman. And then number three, did you think that what did he call himself? Superman of 4500 AD. The guy with the mummy face.
Unknown Superman.
Did you think he was real, or did you think he was part of the paranoid visions that Lois was seeing? So okay, three-part questions. Thoughts on the time telescope and the concept of it. What do you think?
I like the concept of the time telescope. especially because it doesn't work very well. I think if you have a time telescope that works really well, that's too powerful that you can always
True.
check in with like some future version of yourself and be like, you know what? I can't figure this one out. How'd you do it? Me? From a year from now? And then like just have somebody tell you the answer. That's cheating.
It's lazy.
It's lazy, in fact. But if you're like, I'm trying to get this message from the future, and somebody's like crackling in, and they're like fighting the sun, and you're just like, seems bad in the future.
That's cryptic.
It's cryptic. I like it. It's mysterious. It makes me feel like the time I'm in, not so bad, which I often need to feel.
Yeah.
So, so I like it. I like it. I would have one in my room in my house, and
So you would talk to
occasionally
the
go-
Morgans of the future.
go talk to my, the Morgans of the future, and I'd be like, "How's it going out there?" And they'd be like, "The war, the famine," and I'd be like, "Sweet, I'm gonna go get a Starbucks." A little Starbucks run for me, a little sweet treat before the horrors.
Yes.
So I think it would make me feel better about myself. I like that he's got it, and I like that it doesn't work well. I think that's not a bug.
So, second question. Lois Lane wants to know about her future with Superman. She poses this to the Superman of 4500 AD, and I thought this actually made me laugh while reading it. Was that I felt like he was skirting having to answer the question. He's like,
he sure was.
cutting out. I can't respond to you. I can't answer that question of whether or not you're going to marry Superman and have children. Everything is breaking up. So that made me laugh. That it seemed like, did he want to answer the question, or could he not answer the question, or was he just trying to skirt around it?
I also like that she says, like, will I marry Superman? Will we have children? I need to know. And his answer to that is the best answer. I'm going to need to use this in my everyday life when people ask me questions. He says, the horrible answer is before you. So it's like, wait, I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so cute. I don't think that that can't be me, right? Are you saying that I shouldn't have kids with him? Are you saying that this is the result, is like you and you're weird? He's like, yeah, he's like, I won't tell you yes or no, but I'll tell you it gets messed up.
So that answers some of my questions, trying to connect those dots about Superman of 4500 AD, because she later says something to the effect of, is Superman's plan for me to become the mother of this race of messed up kids with superhuman kids with deformities? And she like gets all paranoid about it.
Yeah, she's like, gets all in her head. She's like, oh my God, is that what that means? Like, she's like going, like spiraling down. He's probably just like, I don't know. I'm going to be mysterious.
And number 3, I think this was my third question. Do you think Superman of 4500 AD, was he real, or was he like a hallucination or a paranoid vision for Lois? Because later on at the end of the episode, Superman talks to her about how Robot 7 had messed something up, and there was like chemicals that went in the air that made people hallucinate and have paranoid reactions to extremely paranoid reactions to things. So I wondered, I was like, wait, hold on, was 4500, was he even real?
Wait, what was real? Yeah, I had a lot of questions about that aspect of the story, of the issue, because I was like, is Superman telling the truth, or did she just see a bunch of stuff and he like wants to make her feel better about it? I think we have to assume that Superman is telling the truth, because she's running around shooting kryptonite guns with abandon.
She shoots Superman.
Fully shoots him like right in the face, like bah! And I have to assume that that's not something normal Lois would have done without like a high degree of paranoia. So I do think that we have to question whether the unknown Superman is real or not. And I do think my biggest laugh of the issue is maybe a tell that maybe he's not so real, because she's asking him a question that's very important to her in her timeline, which is, do Superman and I get married and have children? Like, are we together? That's very important to her. He's asking her an equally important question to him and to his timeline. And that question is, who is J-Lo?
The people need to know.
The people need to know. Did she end up with Ben? And I think it's very funny that was the question, is who is J-Lo? And it does make me question whether or not this is just like a figment of her mind, like slowly unraveling, versus a very important piece of information that might save the world in 4500.
Now that also makes me question, like, is Lois asking questions about J-Lo, and this is just like heightening them
Maybe
in this paranoid reaction?
Who among us doesn't have questions about who really is J-Lo? I thought that was so funny, and it did make me question whether or not that was real or in her mind, because it was such a ridiculous question. But a big part of me wants it to be real. I want there to be some catastrophe in the distant future that relies entirely on knowing who J-Lo is.
Wouldn't that be hysterical if, like, the big climax to this book involved needing Jennifer Lopez for something?
Exactly. They're like, we know Jenny from the block, but is she the same as J-Lo? We don't know.
I want there to be a catastrophe that only J-Lo can solve.
That I feel like that would be a great direction for this comic to go.
I'm going to be disappointed if it doesn't go there. Yeah, so we went through all of my questions about Superman of 4500 AD, because I had a lot of them.
Love him. He was my favorite person to pop up in the issue, because there was a baby Sun Eater, but we didn't get to see him.
We just kind of saw like parts of him.
We saw like the pit he lives in, but we didn't really see him.
Yeah.
And I found that offensive. If you're gonna tease a baby Sun Eater, I better see him.
You could show us what he looks like. We did get to find out how Superman feeds him by creating miniature suns, because he's a sun eater, so he has to eat suns. So Superman has to make them. So he uses the cosmic anvil, which we did see on, I think the Supergirl TV series might have just been one of the crossovers. But there was a cosmic anvil in the Fortress of Solitude. And we did learn about baby sun eaters on the Supergirl TV series. So obviously they pulled from inspiration from All-Star Superman for those elements of the Arrowverse. So we did get to see Superman use the cosmic anvil to create miniature suns for the baby sun eater. So maybe we didn't get to see the full baby sun eater and what it looked like, but we did get to find out how they feed this thing,
which was fun. I thought that was really fun. I'm on record as loving the baby sun eaters. The full grown ones less cute,
the babies are way cuter.
I love the baby ones. So I was personally offended that I was teased but not shown a baby sun eater. But I did like getting the insight into how he feeds these things, because it feels like it's hard to come. You can't just DoorDash a sun.
So with a sun eater, so like I live near some Canada geese. So
don't mess with them.
They hiss at you. They're mean and bossy.
They're an angry bird.
I love them though. I love them so much. But you know, the babies are called goslings, and baby geese are adorable. They're super adorable. They're little and furry, and I love the goslings. What do you suppose? I mean, are sun eaters like the adult name? What are like the baby sun eaters called? Are they just baby sun eaters, or do they have like a, you know, how like some animals, like the babies are called like cubs or pups, or, you know, kittens or something like that?
Oh, I don't know what. I hope that they have a baby name. I like it when they have like, oh, look at those little cubs, like look at the lion cubs. I hope it's like, look at the baby, like look at the sun eater sunnies. Look at that little sunny.
Or they could be little rays or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Little rays. I like that.
Yeah. So I didn't know if like baby sun eater was like the baby name, or if they had a baby name. Anyway, I thought about that way too much. But yeah, so we got to see the baby sun eater. So lots of taking us around with Lois to places within the Fortress of Solitude. Now, Morgan, this was kind of like the big. We saw Lois in the first episode, but we got a lot more time with Lois in this one. What did you think about how she was portrayed and the things she was doing in this issue?
Yeah, Lois was a little off in this one. She's a little odd. The gas leak theory made sense to me at the end of the issue because I thought to myself, oh, okay, that explains a lot. Because up until then, I wasn't loving the characterization of Lois. The one thing I did like is we see a lot of Lois in like some of the different media and the comics not knowing the secret, and then Superman doing a lot of things to trick Lois into believing that there's, Superman and Clark Kent are two different people. And I like the idea that he did such a good job at that when he finally does tell her the truth, she's like, no, we've been through this before. That's not true. That's not true. Explain this, explain that. So now he is like, he spent all this time trying to convince her, no, we're different people. And now he has to convince her, no, we're the same person. I'm telling you the truth now. And she's like, how would I know? You were telling me the truth then as well, weren't you? And I thought that was really clever because I feel like we see a lot of versions where he tells her the truth and she's like, I can't believe you've been hiding this from me. And like but she believes it immediately. I thought it was funny that this version, she immediately is like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. And she does get mad at him, I think, once she kind of starts to humor his explanation a little bit. So she's like, you've been lying to me all this time and now you're telling me the truth. So yeah, I did like that she thought through that. She asked a lot of questions to confirm her suspicions because she did say that Superman had tricked her many times before. She even says that he's played cruel tricks on her. And so this is part of the reason why I don't love some Superman stories, because I don't like the idea that Superman lies to Lois in this way and then later I don't like any story that does it. And I know most Superman stories do. That's why I like Man of Steel, is because she figures it out on her own even before a Superman is a thing,
before he has to do a bunch of stuff and lie to her a bunch of times.
So I prefer a Superman who doesn't lie to Lois in this way, but I've made peace with the fact that this is part of his mythology and a lot of stories do that. I do think that makes him a big old jerk for it. So I'm not crazy about it. But I do think that Lois, given the situation that she's in, I think she handles it pretty well in terms of being a journalist and asking a lot of questions and trying to figure out what this means for her relationship with Superman. And but there's not a lot of talk about her relationship with Clark, though. It's a lot of Lois and Superman.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, she asks him very specific, like, what about that? She says, what about the time Clark was a witness in the Boss Grimaldi trial and you accompanied him everywhere as his bodyguard? And so Superman is like, oh, that was Batman standing in for me. Like, okay, they don't look that so okay, whatever. And then she's like, or what about the time Clark presented you with the Metropolis Man of the Millennium Award? And he just says, a robot.
The Superman robots they can be convincing. Linda Lee had a whole bunch of them in the Supergirl Silver Age.
Yeah. I understand why she's so furious at him, honestly. If somebody was like, oh, that was my robot, I'd be like, I need to get off the Titanic.
I hate you so much.
I need off of this doomed ship at this moment. Weird place to have your romantic dinner. I think my biggest critique of like the Lois characterization in this issue, which was, again, I feel like the gas leak allowed them to kind of hand wave weird behavior. So it's hard to tell. But when she thinks about it, Superman actually being Clark Kent, she seems really bummed at the idea, and she seems really mad at the idea that it's Clark specifically. It seems almost as if she actually doesn't like Clark at all as like a person.
Yeah.
And that's a bummer as somebody who loves Lois and Clark, who loves Lois and Superman. I feel like most interpretations are like when she finds out they're the same person, she's like, great. Or some interpretations, she starts having feelings for Clark first. And then she's like, oh, cool. Okay, that makes me feel less guilty about this big crush I have on Superman. But in this version, she's like, no, I like Superman. I do not care for Clark. She even says at one point, what if there really was some part of him that was bumbling, oafish Clark Kent?
Oh, that's
She said, I just
brutal.
don't know if I could live with that. I was like, I don't know. Listen, it's paranoia gas, but I don't think it's changing your fundamental opinions of other people. So that does concern me as somebody who likes their relationship, because I don't know how you write your way out of like she doesn't even like Clark at all. That's a rough one because I don't know. I didn't like that. So
yeah, when I started reading this issue, I was remembering why I didn't love All-Star Superman. And it's
when I got to that line, I was like, okay.
it's mostly the portrayal of Lois. Not only is all that there, but there's a lot of it in the art. I don't love some of the art depictions where she's like naked in the shower and she's like putting on things that sexualize her as she's putting on clothes and stuff. And I'm like, this is not necessary. Like, you don't have to do this. This is so unnecessary. So I don't love some of that art.
She's also in a dress, but the dress looks so much like a nightgown that later on in the issue, I thought she was running around in her nightgown. And the only reason I remembered it was a dress was because as we were talking about the Titanic, the ship of dreams, I went back to that scene where they're having dinner and she's still in what I thought was the nightgown. And I was like,
she could have worn the nightgown to dinner.
That's her dress. Oh, maybe she's just real cash,
I mean,
although he comes in with like his cape up over his head like a hoodie.
His Kryptonian formal wear from the Fourth Age.
Yeah,
that he made himself.
So he is really doing it up for her, and she's like, she's there in her dress / sleeping attire,
real comfy
dress / nighty.
Yeah, so I don't love this version of Lois, but it is her birthday the next day. So part of Superman's kind of going off into this other room and being a little bit secretive about what's going on is that he is making a present for Lois. So what did you think about Lois's birthday present?
It's a weird one. I'm going to be honest. He's like, it's your birthday. And so for your birthday, I've decided that it's great to be super. And this is a thing I've just started to think about. And I thought, wouldn't it be so fun if you were super too? So I made a serum. I memorized all of your DNA. I hope that's not weird. And then I made a serum, and then I stayed up all night sewing a costume to your exact measurements. Don't think about how I know them.
I know them from the chess set.
Exactly.
Of your life size figure.
Don't worry, I tried it on your life size figure first, and it fits like a glove. You haven't like gained or lost like any pounds in like the last 6 months, have you? I update it regularly, but. She's like, Lois slowly starts walking out of the room, gets back onto the Titanic.
Yeah, so he makes the ability to be super for 24 hours for Lois for her birthday. So I guess we'll see what happens with that as we move forward in the next episode. I am curious, Morgan, what are your thoughts on the super suit that he's made for her?
It's okay. It's okay. I kind of
actually hang on a second. Let me introduce this.
Oh, smart.
Right. Hang on. So we'll talk about Lois's super suit.
And now, Lena Luthor, boardroom or ballroom. So this is a birthday present. So I would think that maybe he would want to tailor it to more of like Lois's likes, like the kind of things that she likes to wear. Apparently, this includes like intensely backless dresses that you can but like the color purple,
Yeah, she has a lot of purple. Yeah.
purple. Instead, what it feels like to me as an outsider is that he's given her something that's more his style.
Yes.
He's like, I'm gonna make you super for 24 hours. That's gonna be really cool. I sewed you this outfit myself. I think it's gonna look amazing. It's gonna look like just like you would like it to look, just like me. And I I don't know that that's her style so much, but he has given it a lot of pizzazz. I'm not sure that I would like looking at Superman and his sort of outfits. I'm not sure if I would expect anything different. Honestly, I don't feel like he's the height of fashion. He's really just sort of riffing off of what he knows. So he's given her a little cape, a nice little red cape. He's like, that's a classic. It's in the formal wear, it's in the active wear, so I've got to put that on there. I think that the sort of the biggest thing is she's got like a cape brooch, but it's not the S shield, it's just the letter S, just a giant letter S. I feel like that's muddying the waters a little bit, but sure, okay. Why not an L? But all right, that's fine. She's got a secret identity. It's going to be super something. He gave her a big bedazzled belt.
Yeah.
I think that's fun. It really does give us a time and a place for this comic, and that's the early 2000s. Because I'll tell you, everybody was wearing just a big chunky belt over anything, really. It was like put on a t-shirt. You know how that would look great? A giant belt. If you ever watch What Not to Wear, the end result of every one of their transformations is a woman in a blazer with a giant bedazzled belt. And so this is probably very fashionable for the early 2000s. So he's thinking ahead. He's looking around at women's fashion. He's like, she's got to have a chunky belt. So I gave her that. And then he gives her like these like sort of like 80s power, what are they called?
Like shoulder pads,
like a little round shoulder pad action there, which I find to be charming.
Does it mean that she has all of her power in her shoulders?
Just like all of us, and just like Lena Luthor, I think it also means that she's got very powerful shoulders. I don't know that I love those, just like the random, not square, maybe triangle of yellow on the costume. I don't really know what that's about. It feels like he was like, this is where I have my family crest, but she's like not part of my family, so I can't put that there. So we'll just leave it yellow though. And okay, cool. I mean, sure.
I think you make a great point. Why wouldn't he do something with her Lois Lane purple? Lois Lane is famously usually in purple. So purple is a Lois Lane color, and she has purple all throughout this issue. She's got a purple parka, she's got that purple dress / nightie, purple nails. So if he was doing this for her birthday, making a suit for her, why wouldn't he do that?
Now, what does feel character correct to me is that Clark Kent / Superman does seem like the kind of partner who would want to match with you when you go out for the day. This is no shade. I do this to Mike all the time. I'm like, wear that. It matches. We can match. And I do feel like he would be excited at the prospect of going superheroing with Lois, and they're like in matchy outfits. And he's like, it's going to look so good on Instagram, which nobody's using at this point in time when we're writing this comic.
Instagram exist?
What was this, 2005? I don't think it did.
I don't think so. Well, on the reverse of that, why doesn't he make his suit match her?
That's what I'm saying. It's her birthday.
It's her birthday.
It's her birthday.
This feels like a birthday present for him.
This is absolutely a birthday present for him. This is like when somebody like gets you a birthday present and they're like, it's a vacuum. And you're like, cool. So I got a chore for my birthday. Like, this is not a birthday present for Lois. This is a birthday present for Superman. He's like, isn't it going to be so fun when we both go do my work together and matching outfits, your outfit matching exactly to my outfit, and we're doing the thing that's important to me, but isn't that fun for your birthday? Why aren't they going on an investigative journalist, thing wearing purple, Clark?
Well, we'll see Lois, I guess, in the next issue with her super suit.
Brian in the chat says S for Lois, and then has the capital S at the end of her name.
I mean, I guess you could justify it in that way.
This is 100%, by the way, how Clark would justify it to her, though. No, it's for your name. You got an S at the end.
There's an S in there.
He's thought about it for sure.
Well, we'll see what hijinks they get up to in the birthday present for Lois. And this has been
Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom.
Morgan, is there anything that you wanted to talk about in this story that we haven't mentioned yet before we get into the art?
One of the things I did want to talk about is when Superman is looking at himself in the mirror of truth. And he's like taking off his glasses. It's very dramatic. He's taking off his glasses. And he's like, how could I possibly tell Lois that I wanted us to have this time together because it may be our last? Which feels like, from a narrative perspective, it feels a little clunky for him to be like, I'm looking in the mirror of truth. So you, the reader, know that I'm telling the truth about this and not lying. I'm like, okay, all right, like, fine. But at the end of this, there's like a crack at the bottom of the mirror.
I also too wanted to talk about this. Do you think he throws the glasses at the mirror?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
What cracks the glass in the mirror?
It has to be the glasses, because the glasses he takes the glasses off, and then he's like holding them, and then the glasses are at the bottom of the at the bottom by the cracked mirror at the end. And I like looked at the panels, and the mirror isn't cracked until he's like walking away. So it does seem like he threw the glasses at the mirror.
I feel like there's a lot of metaphors in that. Typically in storytelling, visual storytelling, mirrors are used as a self-reflection, like you're looking into the mirror, but you're kind of like thinking about yourself. You're reflecting on your inner reflection of your person. You're examining something about yourself through the mirror, revealing some kind of truth about yourself. So mirrors have a visual storytelling purpose, but then also cracks, obviously, or are supposed to represent some sort of crack in a relationship or a crack in your psyche, if it's something about yourself. So I was trying to think about what that could mean for Clark Kent / Superman, that he's looking into the mirror and then he's throwing his glasses at the mirror and causing a crack. I wondered if he was frustrated because he's talking about how he feels like he can't tell Lois. Like, it seems like he feels like he can't tell Lois that this might be the last time they're ever together because he is dying. So I wonder if he's frustrated at the aspect of death, and so he's taking it out on the mirror because he's having trouble with revealing these things about himself. So I don't know exactly what that means. I'd be curious about your thoughts.
That's kind of the vibe I got from it as well, that he's like upset that he like he's upset that he's dying, and he's upset that he feels like he can't tell Lois, or he doesn't want to tell Lois so that they can have this time together. And it's like not going exactly how he thought it would be going. He thought she would be more psyched, I guess. And she seems real down on it. And he's like, once she sees her birthday present, though, she's gonna that frown's gonna turn upside down, let me tell you. But I also thought it was really interesting visually in the comic, and I don't know what this means, but I noticed that the jagged edges of the mirror when he's walking away look exactly like the jagged edges of the door, of the round door that Lois is Lois closes when she like closes herself into that like weapons room away from the robots. I don't know if you noticed that as well. I don't know if I'm reading too much into the visuals, and I don't know what that would even mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this mirror of truth is something that Superman has picked up from his many travels or adventures, or if this is something that he has designed himself, like much like that door that you're referring to that does have a circular shape with the jagged edges. Yeah, I don't know. That's a really interesting thought. Yeah, I think there's just, given the mirror and the cracked glass, I think we're supposed to see Superman's inner turmoil here with himself, which I then asked myself, like, why doesn't he just tell her, like, Lois, there's no easy way to say this. I am both Clark Kent and Superman, and also I'm dying. Like, why can't
he thought that was
lay it out?
Maybe
Lay
he thought
it out
that
for
was
her.
too much. Maybe he was like, I can't tell her that I'm Clark Kent. At the same time, I'm telling her I'm dying. What if a little present helps?
My thought about that would be like, at that point, if I found out that this guy I knew was lying to me this whole time, I would be like, from now on, just all truth all the time. No lie. Just
Yeah, I feel like it's not going to go over great when she does find out, because she's going to be like, you lied to me again, because she does ask him early on, like, how'd everything go with the son? And he's like, all good,
yeah, never better.
doing great, thriving, in fact.
Definitely
And it's like,
another lie.
That's definitely a lie.
He can't help himself.
Lying again.
So I think he's just digging a further hole for himself, where he continues to he gives her a little truth and then he lies some more. So not my favorite. Let's see if there was anything else that we didn't talk about. We do get introduced to the Superman robots in this one. They're able to fix cars, which I think is pretty cool.
That's nice.
Let's see.
Handy.
Yeah, very handy. They can do pretty much anything. Superman finds out that when Lois shoots him with the kryptonite gun, that now after his trip to the sun, he has become immune to green kryptonite radiation. He even says it tickles. So that's a new wrinkle with his powers and his problems with green kryptonite. He also, Lois says something about how he now has super intellect as a power. And I was like, did he not before?
I don't think he has a super emotional intelligence, though, not based on this issue.
So that was funny that he now has super intellect. He also says that because of his trip to the sun, his strength has tripled, his curiosity has tripled, his imagination has tripled, and his creativity has tripled. So he's really leveled up. He's dying, but he's leveled up.
You know, when people are like really going through something and they pick up like a really weird hobby that they get too into, I feel like that's him in like fashion design right now. You know how like during the pandemic everybody got really into bread and like puzzling and like birding and stuff, like really weird like old people hobbies. I feel like that's him. He's like going through something. He's like facing his own mortality. He's like, I gotta craft about it.
He's doing everything he always wanted to do. He's not putting anything else off. He has so little time left. He's got to do all the bucket list items.
He's like, I've got such little time left, but I have enough time to make you a banging outfit. And she's like, it's very yellow.
So before we get to the art, is there anything else you wanted to discuss that we haven't?
I think the one thing I did want to talk about that like threw me off is like he has what looks like I'm gonna go ahead and say like a super villain layer, just sort of tucked away casually in the fortress. And I was just wondering, do we find out more about that? He seems very casual about the fact that he's just got bones, like just kind of swimming around in there, just like a full skeleton.
Whoa, wait, hang on.
So that would be this page. I think you can see the panel here. That's a full skeleton. right there, bones and all. And I what's going on in that? What's going on in his lab?
So this is when Lois, see, this is where I'm like questioning everything about this issue, because is this Lois's perception of what's happening during her paranoid
Yeah, that's a great
visuals?
question.
Or
That's
is
a
this
great question. So the only reason I'm not sure if it's real or not is because later on, when she is presumably feeling better, she's back in the lab, and like the weird naked lady's behind her again. And then in the last panel, you can see the bones again. You
Oh,
can see the
yes.
skeleton is
Okay.
fully behind her in this lab. I'm not saying that Superman's doing something shady. I'm just saying he is a full human skeleton tacked up like a butterfly in that lab, and I've got follow-up questions.
So I think that's him studying the human anatomy with the DNA and like trying to concoct this serum that she's going to take to be able to have his superpowers for 20. I think this is his like scientific anatomy lab, I guess.
I feel like she barely needed the paranoia juice. That's all I'm saying. Like, you like look into a room and suddenly your boyfriend, like the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, is like, "Don't go in there." And you look in, there's a full human skeleton in there, and you're gonna be like, should I be concerned?
With a naked lady image that looks a lot like you.
A lot like you. That's just for your measurements. Don't worry about it. Nothing nefarious.
He's not going to try to like take your DNA to do something with it or to do something nefarious.
I just memorized your DNA because I love you so much. I in the chat, this made me laugh so hard. Mind the Cap said, "Would a depressed person make this?" Superman sewing, which is a reference to Parks and Recreations when like Ben loses his job and gets really into claymation modeling. And he says, "Would a depressed person make this?" And it's like a little claymation figure, and the answer is like absolutely yes. And that's sort of like where I feel like Superman's headspace is at the moment.
You're right. Everything happening to Lois didn't have to happen during like a paranoid reaction. Like this could have been a very normal human woman reaction
She's
to
like,
everything going on.
I'm sorry, is that a full skeleton? And then like what looks like a replica of myself? And he's like, "Oh yeah, just for measurements." Measurements for what?
Yeah, Superman is being real shady in this one. So speaking of some of the visuals in this one, Morgan, what did you think about the art? Did you have any favorite panels, pages, or did you have any questions about anything?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, the art was a little odd. I'm starting to see why people are like a little bit mixed on it. Like when she's talking about how sad she is that Clark could be Superman. It's just like a thing of her face, of her teeth, like gashed together.
Yes, the close up of her mouth.
Yeah, I didn't love it.
I didn't understand the purpose of it.
I was like, oh, this is making her seem very unpleasant. I did like them in the Titanic eating dinner together, and then I did question why suddenly some panels were black and white, and then we get to the end and she's like, "I feel like I'm seeing our whole relationship in black and white for the first time." But I do feel like that should have been earlier in that sequence, because when they just started randomly going into black and white, I was like, "What's happening?"
I actually liked the choice to go into black and white, but then the underlining it, I felt like lost some of it for me. I think if you had shown maybe her point of view in black and white, I think I would have thought that was an interesting touch. But then they had to go, and now I'm seeing it in black and white for the first time. You get it?
But to be fair, I needed that, because I was like, why are these panels in black and white suddenly? Like, I did the metaphor flew over my head, and I was looking for a much more literal explanation.
I think for me, the problem with this one in particular is that a lot of the art, while creative, I felt like didn't have a purpose. Like showing the close up of the mouth Why? Why did it? I mean, I guess you're trying to do something different, but like it didn't do anything. The black and white stuff didn't really, I don't know. I didn't feel like it had a reason to exist. So that was kind of, but some of the art though I thought was really interesting, like the stuff with the mirror of truth. I thought those are some good choices there that I think told story and gave a lot of character for Clark and Superman without having to say anything. So I think that was very good. But yeah, the mouth and the black and white stuff, I felt like needed more of a reason to exist.
I also like really early in the issue where he's like taking her her car into the Fortress of Solitude. I thought the colors in that sequence were really pretty. The sky is purpley, like she's wearing purple. So
It's like the purple is guiding Lois into the Fortress of Solitude because that's Lois's color.
I also like when he's telling her that he like made the really heavy key smaller, you know, so it's like pocket size. And then when he puts it on the ground, you can see cracks on the ground as she tries to lift it. I feel like that gave me a good idea, like visually, of how heavy it was, even though it's like a small key, and that could be like hard to visually in like a graphic novel get the idea like this key is really heavy even though it's small. I think they did a good job with like the cracks on the ground and her struggling to pick it up to really give us that impression.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point.
I did want to highlight one thing that two people in the chat mentioned. Stanley says the shower water was odd, and yes, it was. And Rachel all said, I feel like we didn't need to see Lois in the shower, and I agree. We didn't. I truly believe, without having to see it, that she showers quite often. I don't need a visual representation of that. I can just believe it happens off page. I did need to see the baby sun eater. I did not need to see her shower.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I find interesting, I didn't need to see her showering either. I don't think it was necessary. But it does make me wonder, how many times has Lois been to the Fortress of Solitude? And does she have her own little Lois Lane room? Does she have like a regular occurring room in the fortress? Does she stay a lot in the fortress? What is her her spend the night policy, I guess, at the Fortress of Solitude? Does she have her own wing? Does she have clothes that she leaves behind?
Well, she got that from somewhere.
I think Superman made it. He has a newfound love of sewing.
You know what? That would actually make a lot of sense, because I actually have a lot of like boardroom or ballroom kind of questions about this dress. Because when we first see her put it on, the dress, and I'm just gonna pull up my version. The dress that we see, it's so hard when it's the opposite. Here, is floor length, what looks like on both sides, right?
Too long, and doesn't fit her well.
It's very long. It doesn't fit her well. So, but then like we see her in this same column dress here when she's like leaning against the column. We see like the low back. Okay, I'm accepting. I'm understanding what the dress looks like, and I'm accepting it. But then later on, she's like on her laptop. She seems to be in the exact same dress. And later on, when she's running, she's like pulling the dress up, which I understand. I have to assume she knots the dress in one of these panels.
It's definitely
like
shorter
here.
Yeah.
Because suddenly it's really short. By the end of the issue, the point I'm making is that it's really short on one side. Like very short on one side. But when she starts out, it's a floor length dress. So I was like, wait, what happened? And I just answered my question, is that she knotted it at some point as she was running. But that wasn't obvious to me on the first read through, which is why I thought she had gotten changed into a very similar nightgown.
So I know this is why people come to Supergirl Radio for discussions like this. So I have a lot of follow-up questions and thoughts to that.
The important issues, the minutia.
So if Lois had been to the fortress before and it was something that she did, she had her own room, she was used to showering there at the fortress, why wouldn't she leave clothes there to like have when she gets to the Fortress of Solitude? Like she was already prepped with the parka. She had a warm coat.
True.
She knew she was going to the Arctic. Why didn't she take like an overnight bag? So that's a question that I have. Then I have another question. So if Superman did make this for her, that I think says a lot about Superman, that he's like really low on the back and
He's a back guy.
yes. So I have lots of questions about no overnight bag.
He's sitting there sewing. He's like, this is so elegant. Could a depressed person make this?
Yeah, I feel like if this is Superman and Lois's last time in the fortress, she should have like comfy form-fitting clothes. Like clothes that fit her well.
Isn't it
and
cold
maybe
in
some
there?
shoes.
Isn't it kind of cold in the fortress?
You would think so.
Whole back out.
Maybe he has a great heating system.
He probably does, especially aboard the Titanic. No icebergs in sight here.
Oh no!
Until
you just said that, the idea that he has the Titanic in an Arctic fortress of solitude, that is insensitive.
I actually didn't think about that either. Insensitive Superman.
That is not right. There's something very wrong about that. Not respecting the many lives lost in a real, true thing that happened. That feels not right in any way. So those are the thoughts about Lois's wardrobe there. Don't love it. Hope she gets some better clothes. Well, we know she has new clothes now.
Better? Question mark. But she has new clothes.
She has a new thing to wear.
We know that at least like hips down, she's not going to be warmer because it's basically like a bathing suit.
Yeah.
But her shoulders, they're going to be toasty. They're going to be protected. And they're going to be toasty.
So we'll see how that goes. Any other thoughts before we wrap up? I know there's some things in the chat that I wanted to get to, but did you have any closing thoughts, Morgan, on this issue?
This was an odd one. This was a we zigged and we zagged. We're zigging and we're zagging in this one. Yeah, I don't know. I do not know where the story is going, which is kind of fun. It is kind of fun because now it seems like we're taking a detour so that Superman can have a fun day out with Lois, and I kind of respect it. It's like I feel like there's probably more important things he should be doing in his final days, but a jaunt does sound fun. So
he's crossing things off his bucket list now.
Exactly. He's like, I always thought it would be so fun if my girlfriend was also super and we wore matching outfits and he fought crime. That's something I've always wanted to do. So we're going to do it now.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mention it. I have read this before, and I am like, I don't know where this is going.
Where is this going?
So I guess we will find out together. Mind the Gap says this issue and next issue are a tribute to that weird Lois Lane series of the 60s and 70s. And I just want to say, I'm going to stop here, Mind the Gap. I love Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. I actually collect issues of that. I can't remember exactly how many issues I have. The most expensive comic book I ever paid for was a Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. It's the one where the cover where she's kissing all the guy superheroes, like in a line. I paid a lot of money for that in Midtown Comics in New York City.
Nice.
So I actually collect the Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. That was actually a very popular series. People don't realize that. Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen's Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen was also very popular. So Mind the Gap says this is a tribute to that weird Lois Lane series of the 60s and 70s where Clark and Lois would act weird. Two of my least favorite issues in this series. So I guess this issue and the next issue is what Mind the Gap's talking about. This is actually this part where Lois gets Superman's powers is the only thing I really kind of remember about this story. So yeah, I'm also not looking forward to it. Stanley says both that this was a fun, silly issue, but also felt a little clunky. So those are Stanley's thoughts. Okay, Mind the Gap also has a couple of other things to add. Cal Kent and Solaris are from a Grant Morrison JLA story called DC 1 Million, so that's good to have that backstory. And then Mind the Gap also says so many lines in the series have meaning and get revisited later in the series. This is my least favorite issue, but looking back on it, it's very important. So good to keep that in mind, even if we thought it was a little, maybe there were some, maybe we'll look back on it when we finish the story and be like, yes, it was important that we had a close up of Lois's mouth in the art. We're going to be really
maybe. I'm memorizing lines as we read so that I can go back and be like, that's maybe the weird rabbit hole I fell down where I was like the shattered mirror looks like the closing doors on Lois. Like, what does that mean emotionally? Maybe that'll come back into to play towards the end. I doubt it. But I think it's just me seeing pattern recognition. But who knows?
We'll have to look back on it and see if anything. Since this is sort of the beginning of the series, we've still got a ways to go. So we'll see if this pays off towards the end. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. If you'd like to contact us, you can post a comment on our website, supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on X and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts where you can leave a rating and a review. Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast and Multiverse of Color networks. You can hang out with us as we go live and wired on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page. And DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store. So if you're in need of new DC or DC TV or DC Comics related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, magnets, tote bags, pins, phone cases, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
And since All-Star Superman #2 mentioned our boy Robin, we have some Boy Wonder designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store that we'd like to suggest.
Yeah, so Lois and Superman talk about Batman and Robin, and Superman wonders if he should have taken a partner for his crime fighting, which I think plays into later when he gives Lois the ability to have his powers for 24 hours. We do have some Robin designs in the store. We have a lot of Flying Graysons and Haley Circus if you are into the Robin mythology and his origin story. And I guess that would be the Dick Grayson origin story with the Flying Graysons. So if you're if you're
been many Robins,
yes, there have been. Can you name all the Robins?
I cannot. Jason Todd, Dick Grayson. I know Stephanie Brown was one briefly.
Okay, that's a good one.
What's her name? Cassie something? Was Cassie
Carrie Kelly?
No, I was thinking of Cassandra.
Oh, was she Batgirl?
No, she was maybe Batgirl.
Yeah,
now I'm all confused. Jason Todd and Dick Grayson are the two that I know.
Yeah, so
are the two big ones I know.
So there's Tim Drake.
Isn't Damian Wayne?
Damian Wayne might have been Robin at some point.
A little boy Robin.
I try not to think about Damian Wayne if I can help it.
He loves you.
not a big Damian Wayne. But yeah, so there's Carrie Kelly and Tim Drake if you wanted to round out those Robins. And maybe there's some Robins I don't even know about.
I'm sure there are. Every now and then they're just like, throw in a random Robin. A Robin for you and a Robin for you.
There's a Robin for all seasons. Well, let's thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Anne-Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Majuba, Annie, Rachel, and Kit. If you'd also like to become a legion of super sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. If you want to keep up with me, you can follow me on a couple of different places. I'm on Instagram at the Derby Kid. I'm also on the social media platform Vero at Derby Kid. I have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to at youtube.com/DuckMilkProd. And I also do a travel blog that I'm trying to catch up with for my adventures overseas and in the United States. I do it with my brother called at Oasis Broom. So I'm on the social medias there. And you can follow me on all the places.
Nice. You can follow me on all the places at Mojotastic, and also find me as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast, where we just talked about the Suits LA pilot. with starring Stephen Amell, the Arrowverse's own Stephen Amell. And this week, I believe we're going to be talking about the new Lady Gaga album. So we zig and we zag. We do music, we do TV, we do whatever the Suits LA pilot was.
I enjoyed your discussion of Suits LA. I have not seen the original Suits,
Neither had I.
And I did not watch the Suits LA pilot.
You're good.
but the thing that I was interested in, if you continue to watch it, was there a ghost? Like there was a character that it turned out to be like a dead person.
There was. We all saw dead people in the pilot. It's a fake out, so spoiler alerts for the pilot. But there is a character who you think is real, who you think Stephen Amell is having conversations with, who turns out to be a ghost.
That actually may make me want to watch it.
I was like, I'm only in this if the ghost sticks around and like starts giving him like whispering legal advice to him. In, like, the middle of
That's how he wins all his cases.
Exactly. It's like this man has some sort of help from beyond. I'm picking a completely different show, though. I just want to make that very clear.
I think that's a better show, though.
It's so much of a better show.
I also listened to the Legendary Ladies episode on what was it? The Gorge? Was it?
Gorge.
Yeah, I was really into that.
The Apple TV movie, The Gorge. Yeah, I that was a fun one because I went in knowing nothing besides like the cast of the movie, and it was a wild ride.
I think the good thing about the Legendary Ladies podcast is that you could listen to an episode and you're like, I don't know what this is. But then after listening to them discuss it, when I hear you all discuss something, I'm like, I think I might have to check that out. That sounds pretty interesting. So I'm going to have to watch The Gorge.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to watch it. But keep me posted, everybody, if the ghost on Suits LA becomes a more prominent character.
Message us if the ghost starts giving legal advice, and then we'll jump back in. I promise.
Email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com with Suits LA updates.
Subject line: Ghost Watch.
So the Legendary Ladies always keeping me up to date on what's going on in the world of entertainment. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And remember, when you spend all day saving the world, you need somewhere quiet to relax.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!